I want to tell you today about the absolutely absurd, rage-inducing plea hearing that happened in this case on Friday. So I did get a chance to go down to watch the plea hearing. Again, the case involves Wendi Traynor, who was murdered in cold blood when she was just 25 years old back in 2017 at her apartment in Milton. She was killed, shot to the back of the head by her estranged boyfriend who had stalked her across the country. And we knew was coming to court to plead guilty to second-degree murder in what was a sweetheart plea deal that prosecutors offered up for him, much to the family's objections. And that's why the family, they had retained a private attorney, Ann Bremner, pro bono, to work with them to bring attention to the case. And they just couldn't believe that prosecutors, despite their objections, would offer Joshua Ellis basically what would be the equivalent of about 7 years in prison. So he's been in jail, he's been behind bars since he was first arraigned in this case back in 2017. He was arrested just a few days after the crime. And if this plea deal at sentencing, if he gets exactly what the prosecution has promised, he will be out of prison by 2025 for shooting his estranged girlfriend in the back of the head. Out by 2025. The crime happened in 2017. Egregious by any standard. So in court, the prosecutor, Pierce County prosecutor Drew Swaim, who the family has said, has been empathetic, but at the end of the day, the prosecutor's office still gave Josh Ellis this plea deal. So anyway, Drew Swaim, before the judge decided if he was going to accept the terms of the plea deal, she spoke in court and she put on the record that the family was vehemently opposed to it.
What I can tell the court verbally right now, and what will be in my prosecutor's statement for the basis for filing the amended information, is that the family is diametrically opposed to the amendment. They are very upset with our office for agreeing to the amended charges, as well as the plea bargain and the sentencing recommendation, should we reach that place, the state will be making. The family is very frustrated about the lack of communication they believe and their lack of involvement in this negotiated settlement.
Yeah, at the same time, we didn't hear a clear explanation in court from the prosecutor's office why they felt the need to offer Josh Ellis such a lenient plea. As we've talked about many times on the show already, there are no factual issues with the case. It's very cut and dry. He was already convicted at trial in 2019. He got off on a technicality. They could have easily brought him to trial again. The family would have preferred it. Instead, what? To get the case off their plate, to avoid, the racial undertones of having a black suspect in the case. It's incredibly bizarre. But anyway, the judge in the case, Andre Penulver, he's a 2021 Inslee appointee. Take that for what you want to take it for, but Inslee has been in office for 12 years, and so a lot of the judges are Inslee appointees. He, I will say, was sympathetic to the fact that the family was not consulted about the plea, but he said that he was going to accept it. Here's some of that.
This is a difficult decision because I think that our state statutes present a protected place for victims and their families in the criminal process, and that includes the right to be consulted with regard to any plea agreements. But it is limited to that, and that is in part because of the constitutional rights of the defendant to due process, which, as unfair as it may seem, does come first. So given that, I am going to accept the basis for the amended information presented by the state.
Thank you, Your Honor. We appreciate that. And to let you know as well, Mr. Ellis has family members and supporters here. So just so you know that there are people that care about him too and are also very concerned that justice be done.
Yeah, that voice you heard there at the end is Mary Kay High. She's the defense attorney for Joshua Ellis. I'm going to talk more about Mary Kay High coming up just momentarily. But I want to, before I get to the family's reaction, so what does all this mean for this case? So essentially the judge accepted that the plea could move forward. And so Joshua Ellis pleaded guilty in court on Friday to murder in the second degree. Now, the case was still scheduled for sentencing on October 20th. And this judge, as he noted to the court, and in any other case where a plea deal is reached, a judge has ultimate discretion. So it is possible that this judge could, at sentencing, say, I know that we're here based on a plea deal, however, I'm going to sentence you to something higher than the plea deal. So that is still possible, and I know the family is hopeful that that will happen. I'm not sure they're holding their breath because of how they've been kicked around by the criminal justice system this entire time, and I'm going to give you a couple more examples about this. But Wendy's whole family was there, I mean, a lot of them, and they spoke to us briefly after court. So your reaction to the judge's decision to accept that plea today?
Disappointing.
Extremely disappointed.
Very disappointing.
He sat there when he was asked, are you going to admit that you're guilty, or will you say guilty? And he actually hesitated, put his head down, and I thought, you got to be kidding.
He wasn't
After
sure.
all of this?
He doesn't want to take responsibility.
Yeah, well, no, he's not.
Losing his right to vote?
Cowards don't.
Who cares? You
Yeah.
know, he doesn't care.
They took our 25-year-old daughter.
Left her for a week on the floor, decomposing. Came and went every single day, stepped over her, fed his dog, walked his dog, left her there, didn't call for anybody. And her dad and uncle had to go and find her laying there, traumatized, on the floor, decomposed. After, you can only imagine what that does to a body. It is. No, it is not right. And they want to cut his sentence in half? Really? No.
Yeah, so again, you know, they know that the judge could, at the end of this on October 20th, say, no, he deserves more time than the prosecution has gifted him. I don't know if they believe or not that that's going to happen. But I really want to play for you two things that to me show how little regard the criminal justice system as it operates today in our state has for victims and the family members of victims. So I'll paint this picture for you. So I would say there's 20 or so members of Wendi Traynor's family in there, including there's also some supporters like Brian Byerly, who was the original detective from Bonnie Lake on the case. And, you know, it's an emotional day for them. And you can imagine what they're going through. They're sitting there, they see the guy who took their Wendi away, and they know that he's going to get this just slap on the wrist. So the defense attorney in this case, Mary Kay High, I have been covering crime and justice in this state for 13 years. I have never seen a defense attorney treat the family of a victim so callously and so rudely. And look, I know it's the job of a defense attorney, a good defense attorney, to get the best possible outcome for their client. I get it. But I have seen very good defense attorneys do that without completely undermining the emotional distress that their client has caused someone. I don't know anything else about this woman, Mary Kay High, except she's been involved in some other high-profile cases. But I was stunned at the disregard that she showed for the victim's family. So again, imagine them all standing in court. I'm going to play, I've put a montage together of some of the things this defense attorney was saying throughout this hearing on Friday. When it came to, she didn't want the family to have an opportunity to speak, or the family's spokesperson, Ann Bremner, who is a private attorney working the case pro bono. She didn't want that. She also, when the case was set over for sentencing, took issue with, she's like, well, I'm going to play it, but I want to set it up for you. Are all 20 of them going to speak? You know, I don't think that we need to hear from all 20 family members. And so just with that context, I just want you to listen to the rudeness for no reason that this defense attorney employed while talking about Wendi Traynor's family, who was standing right behind her.
I am objecting to having Ms. Bremner or family members address the court at this time, at this proceeding. They've actually already weighed in with their thoughts for the court, with their emails and their victim impact statements. You know, I think for fairness to Mr. Ellis, his due process rights are not trumped by the family's desires. And, you know, the fact that they have the resources to hire an attorney, Ms. Bremner, doesn't change that calculus at all. I would say you do not need to hear from the family additionally. You have 2 letters and an email, and you can make your decision regarding the amended information without further statements to the court.
There was a little bit of an audible laugh when it was said the family had resources to hire me because I'm pro bono.
We've tried to accommodate the family at every turn of setting over dates for the plea, setting over dates for the sentencing. And Your Honor, if I may, Washington Constitution, Article 1, Section 35 talks about a representative. It doesn't talk about making sure you accommodate 20 individuals to address the court, but rather a representative of the deceased or the victim. I know that routinely we will hear from several family members. I don't presume that even under the constitutional amendment that it means that 20 people get to address the court.
I mean, it's just like all of it completely unnecessary. So here she's like, oh, we've been bending over backward to accommodate the family of a murder victim who your client killed. And she goes, oh, well, just because the family has the resources to hire an attorney doesn't mean that we need to hear from that attorney. The attorney is pro bono. Then she goes on, oh, at sentencing, do we really have to hear from 20 family members? Just one will suffice. What is wrong with you? How callous is that? And again, I get that you're trying to put your client in the best possible position to get the best possible outcome, but you can't do it with an ounce of care or concern for the fact that behind you is a mom without her daughter, a dad without his daughter, an aunt, an uncle, cousins without the person that they loved. Shame on you, truly shame on you. I was actually speaking to another journalist outside the courtroom, and they brought it up first. They're like, what was with the defense attorney? And I go, I don't know, I've never seen that. And there was one more thing I just wanted to play, which was, again, the proverbial middle finger to a family that has been beaten up and disrespected by the justice system ever since their loved one was killed in 2017. So in the courtroom were a couple family members of Josh Ellis, which is fine. You know, it's not their fault that their loved one killed someone. And I have no issue with them being there and advocating and saying, hey, we're here to support him. But so we're out in the hallway with me and a few other journalists. We're out in the hallway with Wendi Traynor's family, and we're in the middle of interviewing them, and the door to the courtroom is right there. And we knew that Josh Ellis's family was going to be coming out soon, so they opened the door, and so, we all kind of like try to go off to one side to let them pass. And one of Josh Ellis's family members, under her breath, as she leaves, for no other reason than so the family heard it, said this.
I'm glad he'll be out soon.
I'm glad he'll be out soon. Talking to no one in particular, but wanting the family to hear it. I'm glad he'll be out soon. Wanting the family to know, yeah, our loved one who killed Wendi Traynor, who killed your 25-year-old, I'm glad he'll be out soon. That is a level of callousness that I think is encouraged by what just happened in the courtroom. At every stage in that plea hearing on Friday, everything was done for Joshua Ellis. Oh, we want to make sure that the sentencing is built around whether his family can show up. Even the fact that we couldn't film his face in court. The defense attorney made a motion to the court that we couldn't film his face, and the judge granted it, which is unprecedented. Everything was about him. So then you've got his family member high off the justice system, catering to them, walks out, and to the family of a grieving family says, I'm glad he'll be out soon. Under her breath, but loud enough for them to hear. Absurd. And I feel bad for the family of Wendi Traynor. How ridiculous. How ridiculous is that? So we'll see what happens on October 20th. I wanted to update you guys on what happened in court. It is one of many examples of how the criminal justice system is truly failing the people who it is supposed to serve.